Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today on a Tuesday morning. I am Marsh, joined in the booth by JR Storm. Good morning, JR. How are you?
I'm doing great, Marsh. Been an interesting week in SimWorld since the last time I was on the show, so let's get right to it.
Sure has. We're going to talk some Monday Night Football off the jump. We're going to play a little game of buy or selling as SimWorld U title contenders, and we're going to wrap things up with a guest appearance from head coach Assad Drayton to close things out. But like we said, let's start with Monday Night Football, where Kirk Cousins delivers a performance for the year, because I don't think we could say for the decade. 22-21 win as the Falcons rally back. A late touchdown drive orchestrated by Kirk Cousins to Drake London with a little bit of a spice of a 15-yard penalty requiring what amounted to pretty much a 37, 40-something yard field goal to win the game for the Falcons. They hold off the Eagles with an interception by Bates to close it out. Huge win, JR, for a Falcons team that was in desperate need of it. Let's start with the winners. Your takeaway for a Falcons team that moves to 1-1.
Well, first off, Kirk Cousins seemed like last night finally got a chance to show why Atlanta paid him all this money. I mean, just start off right with that. But Atlanta's offense, maybe not all game, but when it came down to crunch time, the offense just looked so fluent. And the thing is, they got playmakers, at every position on the offensive side of the ball. It's just a matter of getting that to flow consistently. Both Bijan and Tyler Algier were solid, had solid stat lines last night. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, really on both sides statistically, it was pretty solid across the board. Not a lot of turnovers. And, if Atlanta's offense can string this together, sort of consistently, offensively, that could be their calling card.
Well, they look good in the final drive, and if you were watching the Manning cast, which I highly recommend because it's extremely entertaining, they both were talking about, they had Matt Ryan at the time, and they were talking about how at the 2-minute drill when you're in a new offense is the easiest time because you're back to a lot of basics. And Kirk Cousins said that from in the post-game interview on ESPN, where he says it was about getting to plays that they had installed early in camp and they were familiar with, and they looked familiar with it. It's going to be a growing process when you've got the addition of a new quarterback into an offense, a new offense in general, so everybody is learning it in real time. But the fourth quarter is when they really looked to be in sync, and it was about damn time because for the first 3 and 3/4 of a quarter, they did not look to be exceptionally in sync. But they put it together when they needed to, and they found a way to get Drake
Yep.
London going. They ran the ball really whatever they wanted to, 28 carries for 152. Algier looked like a number one halfback at times when he was filling in for Bijan Robinson, who looked like a number one halfback when he was coming out of the backfield. They do have the weapons, to your point, and they finally started to put it together. For the Eagles, this is a complete waste of a huge opportunity. You have the Saquon Barkley drop. Everyone's going to talk about he should have dropped it, or he shouldn't have dropped it. Shouldn't have ran the ball anyway. They were running the ball with ease against this Falcons team. And to that end, 4th and 3 inside the red zone. Take the field goal, or excuse me, go for it. Why are we taking the field goal if you're the Eagles? That's what ultimately put them up by 6 points, which allowed the Falcons to march back down. Because you were running really anytime you wanted. 37 for 186. Jalen Hurts had 13 out of the backfield for 85 yards. Saquon had 95 yards on 22 touches. They were running the ball whenever they wanted. The push tush was getting them 40 yards a pop. The fact that they didn't go back to their bread and butter on the 3rd and 3 or even 4th and 3, you could probably tush push that thing from 4th and 3 and
Yeah.
still get a first down. But Barkley is such an explosive downhill runner, a very aggressive downhill runner. The fact that they didn't use him at the end of that game, sure, they could point to his drop. The loss was not the drop. The loss was first off the play call. Shouldn't be throwing the ball when your opponent does not have a timeout. We saw the same thing happen in the Cleveland Browns-Jacksonville Jaguars game, and the Browns got lucky that the Jags offense is completely inept and unable to make any movement down the field. But in this case, you've got two guys that probably combined to squat 2,000 pounds, and you're not going to run the ball up the middle with either of them. That's just a disservice to the roster that you have built right there, JR.
Yeah, without question. And The Eagles, you can attribute it to the play calling, like you said, and just untimely mistakes, in bad moments. That's really what it came down to. Like you said, just mistakes in very critical situations, especially, on the very last drive, as you said, the penalty to sort of help put the Falcons in field goal range. It just, you can't have that, especially in late game situations, if you're really anybody.
The Falcons, or excuse me, the Eagles now move to 1-1 in a division that somehow has a tie atop the division between the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Commanders, just like everyone predicted. All right, let's head to SimWorld U. We're gonna play a quick game. We're gonna say buy or sell title contenders. Name workshop. We'll figure out the name exactly. But we got 3 teams that we're gonna give you, and you're gonna buy or sell them as a legitimate national title contender. First off, we're going to go with the big dogs, a team out of the Power 5 conference. Well, I guess it's Alabama. Buy or sell Alabama Crimson Tide as a title contender?
I'd buy. I think it's very much dependent on, the freshmen coming in and, the situation of DJ Childs and if he's going to be able to return to the sort of level of player he was last season. But then the rest of it, it's going to come down to Levin Cutler, Aiden Weaver. If Levin Cutler can sort of be somewhat of an offensive threat, and, that's not necessarily have to be chipping in, 15, 18 points a game. But if he can chip in, say, 10 to 12 and be that force on the defensive end and on the boards like we all know he can be, that's really all they need from him, truthfully.
I'm a buy myself. I'm a big buy on Alabama. They made it to the Elite Eight last season. They lost by 6 points to UConn, who ended up falling in the national championship game. This all revolves around the health of DJ Child. It's not necessarily will he rise to the occasion. He's proven to be able to do that. He had 32 in that loss last season. He was fantastic throughout Hoopsteria a year ago. But it's going to come down to is he healthy or not. And if his ankle is not at 100% and he's not able to go, then Alabama's not able to go. But if he's out there playing at 100%, this is a team that can make a serious run. All right, team number 2, New Mexico. They finished the season last year with 33 wins, finished at the top 25. They are ranked number 18 to start the season in a new look Mountain West. Buy or sell national title contenders?
I'm going to sell. They do return one of the best shooters in the SimWorld U in Ireland early. They return a good mix of players from last season, but overall, I just think there's a lot more talent across the board in SimWorld U than what there was last season. So I think the road to even cracking the 25 to 30 win mark might be really difficult for them. And I could see them, making a Hoopsteria run, but I just think there's too much talent, like across the board, way more so than last season.
Look, I am unequivocally a Ireland early stan. Made that point very clear ever since the moment that he decided to go to New Mexico over some of the Power 5 conferences that were interested in having him coming off the bench. And he starred as a freshman, led them to an NIT championship last season. But the Mountain West just got a heck of a lot harder. Gonzaga's entered the chat. St. Mary's has entered the chat. We'll see whatever ends up coming to UNLV with Jarrell Beauchamp, if that ends up ever coming into fruition. But the Mountain West Conference as a whole just got much harder. And so while New Mexico was able to dominate last season, I find it very difficult to believe that that's going to happen again this season. And I'm with you there. I'm going to sell as well. All right, last team. Davidson. They made the huge splash this offseason of adding Benari James, a top 10 recruit, the biggest recruit they've ever signed. That does not mean bigger recruit than Steph Curry, just higher ranked, obviously. But the biggest recruit that they've ever signed in Benari James, and that's kind of vaulted them into the title fringe conversation. So, in your opinion, JR, buy or sell Davidson as a championship contender?
Sell. Benari James, he's going to be the face of this team without question. But I just think there's still a lot of unknown offensively outside of Benari. Like, bringing in Nick Hugo, who's struggled offensively, quite a bit in his prep career. You don't know what he's going to bring. Just to me, too much unknown with this Davidson squad to say bank on them making a deep hoopsteria run. Do I think they make it? Yes, I very well think they make it. I just don't think they can make a legitimate run.
I'll offer maybe a counterpoint because I'm gonna on the last point you made because I'm also gonna sell. I am very high on Benari James, but this is a very very difficult conference that they're going into. This is no longer the Atlantic 10, okay, which they were able to win last season and get themselves into hoopsteria. You've got Houston, who's entered last season with all the hype in the world, failed to live up to it, and now is trying to revitalize that. You've got Memphis with Lacedarius Outlaw. You've got Jackson State with D. Woodley. All of them now into the American, with Jackson State joining alongside Harvard, Princeton, and Davidson plus Richmond Spiders. I might think that this team might not even make it out of the American Conference and into Hoopsteria because this is the deepest conference in terms of guard talent in all of SimWorld U. You've got D. Woodley, you've got Ajay Fejbenle, you've got Koy Abdul Rolf, you've got, of course, Benari James. You can add Cam Jones to that conversation out of SMU. This is a very, very deep conference. And if you look around and you look at this team and look at every other conference in SimWorld U, I find it hard to believe that we're going to get 4 teams out of the American Conference. It's possible, and if that's the case, then Davidson's got a pathway to it. But between Houston, Jackson State, Memphis, Davidson, and SMU, plus any other surprise we could get from a Temple or a Wichita State, I just find it hard to believe that we're going to get 4 teams out of this conference. And I think currently, right now, between Houston, Jackson State, Memphis, and Davidson, not counting SMU, I think Davidson is number 4 in that group. Could be proven wrong. To your point, there's a lot of question marks on this offensive side of the ball. What are they going to look like? A very young roster making the leap up a division or a conference level, rather. I'm going to sell them as a title contender, and I'm going to question if they're going to be able to get into Hoopsteria just considering the depth of the American Conference. All right, lastly, we are bringing in head coach Assad Drayton out of SimWorld Prep, Beast of the East, a championship-winning head coach 2 seasons ago. Good morning, Coach. Welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time.
See, March, that's how you do an intro. I really appreciate that. Glad to be here.
We do the intro. We just deliver the true message. That's all it is. All we do is tell the truth over here. Sometimes it's our truth. Sometimes it's the world's truth. In that case, it's your truth. We're going to bring it every time. Look, Coach, you guys are bringing a new season upon you when you enter into the tournament format. We've been asking folks that join the show in SimWorld Prep this question, so I'm curious your take. Moving to the prep tournament format yet again, are you a fan? Are you maybe not as excited about it? What's your take here as we embark on a new era in SimWorld Prep?
Big fan of it. I think this, for the most part, allows a lot more of showcasing who teams are actually. Because when you give a lot of games and a lot of time to prepare, sometimes coaches have a tendency to deviate from who they actually are because they're trying to play like, I don't want to say chess, but if you know you're going to play somebody 4 weeks in advance and that's a crucial game, you're constantly studying their tape. And I think sometimes it makes coaches go away from their game plan or their team's identity, and that ultimately causes losses.
Coach, Marsh just kind of alluded to it. The tournament format, a big change coming to SimWorld Prep this upcoming season. But with all of these changes, is there anything else you're sort of really looking forward to this upcoming season?
The camaraderie. I really like. I'm a big fan of prep basketball, so I want to see how some of the other teams doing these tournaments. The 1-in-1 rule. I think that's gonna make or break a lot of teams. I I don't think there was really any changes that were made this season that I personally have a problem with. I'd probably say I'm for all the changes that happened.
Coach, you've sent a handful of guys off to SimWorld U, Levin Cutler, Fareed Redmond, Isaiah James. Um, I'm curious in your opinion, where is there a player that you're most looking forward to seeing playing at the next level?
Without a doubt, Isaiah James. I have no bias, but I felt like he was somebody who was a dog, who worked hard. I felt like he didn't really get the offers that he deserved. And I think he's one of those players that, given the time, and if people really watch the film, this is a SWBA player through and through.
Yeah, Isaiah James, obviously very talented. He's going to be a big factor for South Carolina. And kind of staying on the SimWorld U side of things, Coach. Are there any SimWorld U teams specifically that you think could surprise a lot of people, or maybe for maybe good or bad reasons this upcoming season?
I'll do one good, one bad. I don't necessarily see UCLA really doing anything crazy this season. I think the brothers going over there at USC makes the Pac-12 that much harder. Gabe Pope and JMO, those two are definitely gonna make those Southern California battles tough. A team that I think is actually gonna surprise people. Can I get a OHIO in the chat? I think Ohio State is gonna be good this season.
Okay, okay.
All right, Coach. Well, last thing here, real quick. We just did a little buy or sell for title contenders: Alabama, New Mexico, Davidson. We went buy, sell on title championships or title odds for them. Your thoughts on those three? We'll just close out with that one.
I'm gonna go buy, sell.
Okay. So
Without a
you're
doubt,
buying New Mexico. I love the buy on New Mexico, man. I really do. I can't bring myself to do it, but I respect you for doing it.
those small teams in tournament play often show you that when you just harp and focus on your style of play and nothing else, you don't need big names. You don't need somebody that's just a once in a lifetime player. Everybody plays their role. You're more focused on being a team than players being brought in. When you think of those small teams that went far, it was like, yeah, one guy shined, but schematically and systemly, this team was always going to be successful.
And they've got the guy to shine with Ireland early, so there's certainly a possibility for them in a new built Mountain West. Look, Coach, appreciate you coming on. That is going to be our show. We will be back tomorrow, getting through the midday of the week here on a SimWorld today. So, Coach, appreciate him coming on. JR, is always great to see you. We'll be back tomorrow on Wednesday morning here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.
This has been a presentation